Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all well. My name is Tanner Dagenais, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it is my pleasure and opportunity to be able to share everything I know about why we self-sabotage and give you tips and tricks and techniques to be able to overcome self-sabotage in your life. Because I know how important it is and how frustrating it can be when you are stuck and you want to make the changes, you want to be able to move forward in life, you know what you need to be doing, but you keep taking the wrong actions, you keep going back to what you used to be doing. And so that's why I created this podcast in the first place, is so I can teach this to you. So today I have a very good podcast. I'm very, very excited. I'll be sharing with you 8 reasons we self-sabotage. And before I get into those 8 reasons, I'll be explaining what self-sabotage is a little bit, so that if you are new to the podcast, you can kind of get caught up. And if you've never really heard about self-sabotage, you can kind of get an understanding for it. And you may find that you have done multiple of these things, and that's why you're self-sabotaging. And often we're not just doing it because of one reason, we're doing it because of multiple reasons, and a lot of them intertwine as well. So I think it's important that we address, why it happens. These are just the common reasons. There's very many different forms of self-sabotage. There's financial self-sabotage, there's health sabotage, there is relationship, and those are just general ones as well, because they break down into many different parts. So first, what is self-sabotage? Well, self-sabotage is any irrational action, thought, or behavior that affects us negatively and leads us towards a life we don't want. So essentially, if you want to be eating healthier, right? And you even tell yourself you're going to be eating healthy, but then the next day you start eating out. You were driving by McDonald's or something, and you stop and you get McDonald's, McDouble or whatever, right? You know that's wrong. You know that you're wanting to eat healthy, right? But you're eating and choosing to eat that McDonald's food. So that would be an example of self-sabotage. Or maybe you haven't been very good at public speaking in your life. And I know this is something for me that was personal, that I used to always do with myself, is I would tell myself I'm bad at public speaking. I tell myself that I hated it. That's a version of self-sabotage too, because I knew I wanted to be good at public speaking. I knew that I should be good at public speaking because it's very important in my life, but I would tell myself I'm actually bad at it. So that is a way your thoughts can be a self-sabotage. A behavior. So think about it as watching TV. A simple act of watching TV could be self-sabotage in actually many different ways. So for instance, like if you are supposed to be doing something else, like you're supposed to be doing homework, you're supposed to be working on your business, you're supposed to be doing dishes, you're supposed to be doing something else, or maybe not even supposed to be doing something, you should be doing something because you want to be creating a business, you want to be moving away from the job you're currently at, so you want to be looking at different work. But instead of doing that after work, you just go home and watch TV all night. Well, you're not going to get anything done, you're not going to be able to move forward in life. So that's a form of self-sabotage. So there's many different forms of self-sabotage. It's essentially anything that will stop you from getting towards where you want in life, anything that works against your goals and desires. Okay, and there's 8 reasons that I've come up with that we self-sabotage. There probably is, well, there's very likely more than that, but these are just 8 common reasons. And a lot of different reasons might fall into some of these ones because they're kind of general. So the first one is we are scared of change. And this one is kind of based on our instincts and just the way our mind works. But also it can be scary when there's something new. We don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what, we're going to be taking a chance on doing something. So if we want to be starting a business, we're scared of making that change, or we're scared of starting to eat healthy because we don't know what the cost will be. We don't know if we're going to enjoy it. We don't know, all these different things. But most importantly, I think, is that, we're kind of primed to be kind of afraid of change, and we're kind of programmed in a way to avoid change based on like a safety mechanism of our mind. So a part of our mind, the subconscious, this is kind of a more primal part of our mind, the part of our mind that kind of just records information, and it has a lot of our instincts and like beliefs and things stored within it. So it tells us, and its main goal is to keep us safe, right? And it to the subconscious mind, the more familiar something is, the more times we've seen it in our lives, the more times we've done it, the more likely it's going to go. And you kind of think of this as like nature always goes down the path of least resistance, right? And we are a part of nature, so we will often go down the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is the familiar path. So if you think about it, the more times you do something, the more times you say something, the more times there's a actual pathway in your brain, a neural pathway that gets created when you first time you do something, and then it gets reinforced every time you do it, and that becomes an easy path to travel down. That becomes the path of least resistance, essentially. So this is part of the reason why it's so hard to make these changes often, and this is why habits can be so powerful, because once you've created that habit, you've created that neural pathway, it's been reinforced, and then it's harder to make that change afterwards. It's harder to want to be able to do the opposite thing, and you'll just naturally go to that habit you created, or the familiarity, and that's with the subconscious mind, the way the neural pathway works in our brain. So it's a way to keep us safe. It's a way to keep us from getting hurt or failing, and that brings me to my next point. Number two, or the reason why we self-sabotage, is we're afraid of failure. And that kind of intertwines with the first one, right? We're scared of change because we might fail. And often, we tell ourselves, we're going to fail. And then in all reality, if we don't ever take that action and we know we should be taking it, isn't that failing? It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We tell ourselves we're going to fail at it, and then we either don't do it at all, which is failing, or we try it out and we've convinced ourselves that we're going to fail, and we end up failing because of that, and we're making a mistake because of that. And it's because we've told ourselves that we're going to fail. We're afraid of it, and often, this can be a big deterrent. Failing, either we could be feeling like we're embarrassed for ourselves, or because we don't want other people to see us as failures. We don't want to see our family see us as failures. We don't want to see our loved ones, our wives, our kids to see us as a failure. We don't want our coworkers to see us as a failure. So what we'll do is we'll play small. We'll play small, fit into the group, not stand out in any way. We'll be mediocre. And that's a big way to stay safe, just like the subconscious mind likes. But it's not a big way to excel at life. It's not a big way to become super happy or successful or wealthy. It's not a great way to do anything, because if you're scared of failure, you're gonna be holding your back from so many things. And often we need to take risks. You got to risk it for the biscuit sometimes. You got to go out there and put yourself on the line. And that's, if you ask anyone who is wealthy, I've seen many different people, like wealthy people, talk about this, is that they'll always put their money on the line. They'll always go out there and risk something. And they've done that many, many times. And sometimes they fail, and then sometimes they succeed. And really, the difference between someone who's wealthy and poor, and it's partially like how they're raised and their surroundings. That's very, very important. But part of it is just their mindset, and how they feel about failure, and how they let failure affect them. So if they did not succeed, they might not even think of it as failure. They might think of it as, okay, well, this didn't work. So what do I need to change to address it? Instead of thinking of it as failure, they think of it, okay, well, this didn't work. This thing didn't work. Can I tweak it a little? Can I do this? Or do I have to go do a different route? And they'll think about, how can I make this succeed? And that is important. Choose your mindset so you focus on, what you can do to succeed instead of that failure aspect. So avoid the fear of failure, and focus instead on what you can do to make the changes. The next reason why we self-sabotage is we want that instant gratification. It's the short-term thinking mindset, and a lot of our society is built around it. So you look at our medical system, There is pills and things you can take that was supposed to make you healthy or help you lose weight or help cover up a symptom. But really, a lot of these things don't work because they're not addressing the root cause of the problem, right? They're not like, if you want to be healthy and you have some kind of disease or some kind of problem, often that's caused by what you're eating, from your lifestyle, from what you're doing, from the things you're putting on your body, from the things you're telling yourself, from the amount of sleep you're getting, from all these different things. It's all holistic kind of things that it all affects you. But we're stuck in that short-term thinking mindset. We're thinking of the quick fix. How do I get this done quick? How do I do this quick? But unfortunately, that's where our subconscious mind comes into play, because our subconscious mind is that primal part of our mind. It's the short-term thinking part of our mind. And it's usually active the majority of the time, and it's usually making a lot of our decisions for us. So they say it's about 90 to 95% of our daily actions and thoughts come from our subconscious mind. And it's kind of a scary thought, because if you know about the subconscious mind is just kind of like a record player or a giant storage device, which stores all the things we've learned from other people around us and from society, from TV shows, from different things like that. And it usually chooses what is the safest option, what is the most familiar. And oftentimes what's the most familiar is not the safest thing. And it will often also go for the short-term thinking, the quick satisfaction, especially if we've been primed to think that is the best way to do it. So we got to avoid the instant gratification. We got to avoid, that dopamine fix that we're searching for. Oh man, I'm just so sad and tired. I just want some ice cream, right? That's going to make me feel so much better. The instant gratification. Or, oh man, I'm just feeling that pain right now. I'm disliking my life. I'm going to start drinking and doing some drugs. That they're looking for that instant gratification to make themselves feel better. But once again, these things don't address the root cause of the problem, right? They are just cover-ups. They are just band-aids that are covering up the actual problem, and they are leading to more self-sabotage. So we got to avoid that instant gratification. We got to start thinking long-term. How is this going to affect me? Oh yeah, I could save a couple of dollars, maybe eating some cheap fast food and getting non-organic food at the grocery store. But in short term, oh yeah, I might be saving that money, woohoo, right? But long term, what are you doing to yourself? You're leading yourself so you're more nutrient deficient. You're setting yourself up to have more toxins within your body. You're setting yourself up to possibly have more problems with diseases and sickness. You might get sick more often because your immune system is going to be diminished. Your immune system you won't have the nutrients in your body to be able to build your immune system. You'll have more toxins in your body that'll be hindering your immune system. So you'll get sick more often. Might have to go to the doctor more often. You might be paying more in medical bills down the line, be spending more time that you could have been spent, happily enjoying life. You'll be spending more time in a hospital bed. You'll be spending more time at home in your bed. You'll be spending your time scared of the world because you don't have a strong immune system. So you got to think long term. How is this going to help me long term? Another example of this is with money. So I've kind of talked about this a little bit with the failure part. I slightly mentioned it with the failure part when I was talking about the wealthy mindset. Often one of the things that differentiates between the poor and the rich is what they're thinking long term or short term. So like, if you get your paycheck, what are you gonna be spending your money on? And I know a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck right now, but often they also are spending money on alcohol, the daily coffee, the fast food, and things they don't really need, right? Or on Netflix, on video games, on all these things, right? When they could be spending their money instead on investing, on buying books, on doing courses, on starting their own business, or on, doing all these different things that they could instead be doing, or they could be, saving up to buy an asset, a money generating device that builds you money instead of loses money. So like retail, possibly like buying a home and renting that out, or investing into the stock market or crypto or buying gold and silver. Those sorts of things are the investments I'm speaking about. And often a lot of people get stuck in the trap of wanting that short-term gratification. They want that coffee every day. They want that ice cream. They want that soda. They want that alcohol. They want to go to the bars and drink all weekend. They are doing these things with their money and thinking short term with it. Where does that leave you when you spend all your money every week? It leaves you with nothing. So you're living paycheck to paycheck. In the long term, you're not going to be able to retire early. You're not going to be able to do the things that you want to do. You're going to be stuck. You won't be able to move forward in life. Okay. Next one is we are misinformed. Number 4 is we are misinformed and struggle to know what it is we actually need. So this is the 4th reason why we self-sabotage. We don't actually know what we need to be doing. We don't, or we believe we're supposed to be doing something, but it's really the wrong thing. So this is actually very common in our society because there's actually a lot of, unfortunately, what I like to call fake science or bought and paid for science. So, people saying that caffeine's healthy for them. This is one that I think a lot of people start to get real feisty with me, or I notice a lot of resistance when I make a post about caffeine because so many people are misinformed about it. So many people are told that caffeine is good for them. But if you do some research and figure out who is funding the research into caffeine, the majority of it, especially the mainstream research that comes out and tells us it's good, that is actually Pepsi and Coca-Cola, 2 major companies that revolve their main products have caffeine in them. You gotta tell me, do you really believe that Pepsi and Coca-Cola would allow results to come out, scientific studies to come out that show that their products are negatively affecting people? No, they really are not, and they would not allow it. And we've seen this. So many people believe, oh, caffeine is so good for me. It's awesome. But you know what caffeine actually does is actually puts your body into a flight or flight state. And the way it does this is to raise the cortisol levels in the body, because your body is essentially trying to get this. It's essentially a toxin, is caffeine, because caffeine is actually used as a defense in plants so that animals don't eat it. And that works kind of the same way in our bodies, except we've been kind of misinformed and we believe that it is the right thing to do because we see everyone else do it. And that's kind of my next point. I'll talk a little bit about that then. But if you're looking for more information about caffeine, look at this book here on the side. If you can see it, it's Caffeine Blues. It is Wake Up. Oh yeah, and you probably can't see this if you're on the podcast. Sorry about that. So it is. It's called Caffeine Blues. It's Wake Up to the Hidden Dangers of America's #1 Drug, and it's by Stephen Trinsky. He not only goes into scientific terms about it, but he breaks down why it's bad for you and how it affects your body on like a layman's term. So he uses the scientific thing to kind of show you how it scientifically works, and then he explains that in a way that everyone can understand. And it's a fantastic book. It's actually very easy to read, and he has many links to the studies that prove this information. But you got to think about this. When your body is in that fight or flight response that caffeine puts it into, it actually puts you into more of a short-term thinking mind state, because part of your mind gets shut off, because about when you're in this fight or flight response system, about the majority of your blood goes to your arms or legs so we can run or fight. Essentially, it's like if we saw a saber-toothed tiger coming at us. Back in the day, that's what would happen, is our body would get that blood into those parts of our system so that we can fight or flight, so we can run or we can fight if we had to. But this still happens with caffeine, even though it's not necessarily like that kind of situation, but our mind doesn't really know the difference. And so what happens is that there's been studies that show about 40% of your blood flow to your brain gets reduced when you're drinking caffeine. So you're actually reducing the amount of blood in your brain, which in turn is making so that your subconscious mind is the more active one. So your short-term thinking is being activated and you're thinking more short-term. So if you're trying to address the short-term thinking, you might want to think about what you're doing that is causing more short-term thinking, like drinking caffeine. So that's one way we're misinformed. Another way we're misinformed, people talking about how organic food is not that important, right? Organic food is so, so, so important. Think about, um, well, okay, so when you are thinking about pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, what's your first thought that comes into your head? Is it someone spraying the fields with like a giant, with like protective gear on? Because that's usually what comes into my mind. Someone is spraying these on plants and they're protecting themselves completely because they know how dangerous these things. They're extremely poisonous, and it's been proven time and time again that when they're spraying on the foods, it actually gets absorbed into the foods, and it actually can prevent the food from fully fully developing, I guess you could say, and so the nutrients are not quite there. So not only are you getting those pesticides, the herbicides, and the fungicides, but the nutrients are not quite there. And if you want to hear more about the food part, I did do a podcast talking about the food. So I recommend taking a look at that. It was from last week. It's how we're destroying ourselves with toxic food. I believe that was the name of it. It was pretty close to something like that. So I would look for that if you are trying to get more information about the food. But informing yourself about what you want to be doing in your life or what you should be doing is very, very important. And I think it's important that you don't just trust what's out there in mainstream media, right? You don't just trust the official narrative, because it's been proven time and time again that there is wrong information out there, and that the products and the food and a lot of things in the markets that we think might be safe are actually not safe and not healthy for us. And often these things don't get addressed or taken off the market or even noted as something harmful until people get hurt, until people start suing the company. So example of this is Roundup, and it's still on the market, which is extremely frustrating, but it's come out in the news many times that how harmful it is for you, how much it destroys you. Roundup or glyphosate, you can also know about. That is so, so harmful for your body, but it's used everywhere. It's still bought today, and people are misinformed about it and are self-sabotaging themselves that way. So that is one of the main things, is being misinformed or struggling to know what we actually need. So a big way to combat this is to be your own, source of information. Do your own research. Try to find both sides of an argument. If people are starting to say that caffeine's healthy, I'm like, okay, that could be true. Let's look at the other side. Why is caffeine unhealthy? What are the things it does to your body? How does it affect your adrenal glands? How does it do all these things, right? It's so, so important we understand that. The next one that I kind of touched on a little bit with this one is everyone else is doing it, right? If everyone else is drinking coffee, if everyone else is drinking alcohol, if everyone else is smoking cigarettes, smoking marijuana, if everyone else is watching TV all the time, then it's probably good for us to do it, or it's probably safe for us to do it, right? That's why peer pressure is so effective. And that's actually the way our subconscious mind works as well. It is actually born with instinct to try to keep us safe, to try to help us fit in with our surroundings, with the familiar. And, this is so important for you to realize, is what everyone else is doing is not always the safest thing. And that's kind of tying back into the misinformation, right? These ones all kind of tie into each other a little bit, because the majority of the public is misinformed. The majority of the public is doing the wrong things. And if you want to have what everyone else has, if you want to be diseased, if you want to be obese, if you want to be sick, unhappy, if you want to be depressed and addicted, then you can do what everyone else is doing and you can get that, right? But if you want something better, you got to start taking different actions. You got to start moving towards something better in life. Sorry, needed a sip of water there. So avoid what everyone else is doing. If everyone else is doing it, that's a good time to question, is this the right thing to do? Is this the thing I actually should be doing? Why is this thing, why am I drawn to this thing? Why is everyone drawn to this thing? And kind of something, actually, this will tie into my next point, which is number 6, we have seen it before. It is familiar to us. Parents and friends do it. TV does it. So this ties in really well with everyone else is doing it, right? We've seen it before. We've seen other people do it. But what you might not know is that you might understand that we're prone to mimic. That is just a human. Um, that is absolute fact. Is that humans are prone to mimic other people, especially when we're kids. So the majority of our actions and beliefs and everything like that, we've learned from other people. Oftentimes, we've learned it from when we were just between the ages of 2 and 7, because that's when our subconscious mind is so much more active. Because it needs to be so that we can fit into society, so we can survive. But what a lot of people don't know is that what you see on TV, what you hear in the songs, what you watch on movies, what you see and hear are very, very important, because the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between fiction and reality. So it considers it part of reality, if part of your environment. It considers it as something familiar the more times you see it. So if you start looking at the TV shows you're watching, I want you to try to picture how many times you've seen caffeine or alcohol in them. How many times do you see caffeine or alcohol? Almost every single TV show has at least one of them, and it's usually multiple times throughout the TV show or movie that you'll see these references to alcohol or caffeine. And this actually is part of the reason why we're so drawn to it, because it is familiar to us. And our subconscious mind wants to fit in. It sees everyone else doing it. It sees the long lines at the coffee stops, and it's saying, hey, everyone else is doing it. This is probably a good thing for us to do. We should do this. And obviously it's not coming into your head like that possibly, but it just says, we should get some coffee, or you get the urge to get coffee, right? That's your subconscious mind saying that. It's saying, come on, get the coffee, come on. So if we've seen it before, we're much more likely to do it. If we've seen our parents do it, if we've seen our friends do it, our teachers, if it's documented by an authority figure. So if it's a doctor says it, if a teacher says, if a government official does it, if a superstar, a famous actor or something like that, or a rock star or something does it, we're more likely to want to do it, because it's registered as even a higher thing, because they're so popular, they're the cool crowd, right? We idolize them, and our mind wants to fit in with that. Our mind thinks, oh man, that's so cool. I could be like that if I drink the coffee, if I do the drugs, if I do these sorts of things. But in all reality, those same people who are doing these things are self-sabotaging as well, and we're just mimicking that. So if you want to break free from that, we got to stop doing what everyone else is doing. We got to avoid seeing these things so often. That's why a big way you can help yourself overcome self-sabotage is start cutting out the TV. And my next podcast on the Thursday after this, I'm going to be talking about the television a little bit more, and some very cool examples of how it affects us, so you can kind of understand that a little more. So keep an eye out for that podcast. So the next reason, number 7 of reasons we self-sabotage. So we have a limiting belief formed, a neural pathway reinforced, a repetitive thought. So limiting belief is just essentially like, money is the root of all evil, or all women are evil, all men are evil. Eating healthy is gross. Eating healthy is too expensive for me. Working out is hard. Having a lot of money is greedy. These are forms of limiting belief, and often they are things that we've seen before or heard before. And on the last one, it's not only what have we have seen before, but what we've heard before. So for this one, with the limiting belief, we create those beliefs based on the things we've seen, based on the things we've heard. And it's a way that our subconscious mind can help us fit in. And that's where we create those limiting beliefs. It's when something's been reinforced, something's been repeated multiple times, and or when we have a very strong emotional tie to something, we usually would create a belief around that, or a very traumatic experience, we can create a belief around that. And not all beliefs are limiting, but there is a lot of limiting beliefs that many of us have. So, for instance, how is thinking that money is the root of all evil a limiting belief? Well, if you believe money is the root of all evil and you have money and you don't want to be evil, what are you going to do with your money? You're going to get rid of it. You're going to spend it all that week, right? Or you're going to do something so you don't get more money. What if you believe that money is hard to get? Money, you have to work your whole life for money. It's going to be hard to get that money. You're going to find opportunities to make it hard for you to get money. So that's just the way our mind works. What if you believe all men are evil and you're a woman trying to date? You'll actually be searching for those, your subconscious mind will be searching for things to match your belief. So your subconscious mind will, instead of picking out the good men, the men who will actually treat you right, your subconscious mind is going to be picking out those men who are jerks, who are, abusive, those men who are, very damaged and would do very negative things to you and diminish you and abuse you. The same thing works for, when people think all women are evil. We attract our beliefs usually, and our beliefs, because our subconscious mind is searching for what, things to match our beliefs and create our reality essentially. So when you have these beliefs, it very negatively affects you. So if you believe that eating healthy food is too expensive for you, then you're not going to be buying healthy food because you believe it's too expensive. But if you think that eating healthy food is very worth it, and that you're going to find a way to buy it, well, then you can do that. You can understand that, hey, eating this food is going to make me healthier. It's going to make it so I have more nutrients in my body. It's going to make it so that, I can excel more in my life because I'll be feeling better. I'll have more energy. And, I'm going to find a way for paid for this. I'm going to start cutting out on the things I don't need, like alcohol and drugs. I'm going to start cutting out on the fast food because that's just not helping my body and that's not eating healthy anyways. So I'm going to save some money there and start putting it towards this healthy food instead. So we got to change those beliefs around. And those beliefs sometimes can be hard to change because, they are essentially, like I was talking about before with the neural pathway. It's just a repetitive thought that gets reinforced. So it's the first thought you have, it creates that pathway in your brain from one point to another. And every time it recurs, it becomes more and more reinforced. And nature will follow down the path of least resistance, right? So if you are having that limiting belief and you're trying to change it, you often find yourself encountering resistance. And that's for all these things when you're trying to change them. You might find that resistance coming up. And that's not necessarily an uncommon thing. That's actually a very common thing because of the way the subconscious mind works, right? It's scared of change. It's afraid of failure. It wants that instant gratification. Has those limiting beliefs and it wants to do what everyone else is doing because it's seen it before, it's heard it before. So when you're trying to make these changes, you got to understand you're going to encounter some resistance, because what you got to do is make your new beliefs, the new things that you want in your life, familiar. So you got to start, essentially putting new things in your surroundings. You got to start, instead of watching TV shows that like Shameless or Friends or things like that have a lot of negative imagery, you got to start watching podcasts that are talking about building your health, doing better things. You got to start listening to TED Talks. You got to start listening to other things that's going to be better influences for you. There might be some TV shows out there, but there's not many that have many good positive influences. And I'll tell you that, especially once you start realizing and looking into it, almost every single TV show, I'll see some kind of thing that's in the TV show that is going to be affecting my subconscious mind negatively. And I'll have to delete it or get it out of my mind. And to tell you the truth, I don't watch too much TV anymore. I used to watch it all the time. And I'm trying to do less and less of it now if I can. And instead replace it with those podcasts, with listening to other people, or not even doing anything like that and just building my business, or doing affirmations or meditating or something like that. There's ways to replace those things. And also not only TV shows, but think about the songs you're listening to. Those can also have a very big impact on your beliefs and your self-sabotage in your life. So the last reason we self-sabotage is we feel like we are in control when we're doing something familiar compared to doing something unfamiliar. And this one kind of ties in with a lot of the other ones. It feels good when we are doing something we're used to. So when we are smoking marijuana, when we are drinking alcohol, when we are playing video games, when you're used to playing video games, it feels good. It feels like we're in control. When we start going into the things that we're not familiar with, it starts to get a little scary. It starts to feel like, we might not have the control that we want. We might not be safe anymore. And this one kind of ties them all together a little bit. That's why I kind of saved it for the last, because often when we are doing something new, when we're making those changes that we want to be doing in life, it may not feel like we're in control sometimes. But the funny thing is that that's when we're in the most control, because we're actually actively making changes to go towards where we want in life. When we want these things in our life, like eating healthier, working out, quitting alcohol, and we tell ourselves we want them and then we keep doing the opposite action, that's the exact definition of not being in control, because you're telling yourself you want something. You actively want something, but you're doing the opposite, right? So if you want to get your control back, you got to start using your subconscious mind to help you take these actions, to help you, you got to start creating the new limiting beliefs. You got to start changing your mindset on failure. You got to start working towards those things. So it's so important. So today, that is what I wanted to talk about, was the 8 reasons why we self-sabotage, what self-sabotage is. Now I'm going to go over the 8 reasons one more time and what self-sabotage is. So self-sabotage is any irrational action, thought, or behavior that affects us negatively and leads us towards a life we don't want. Remember, if you're doing something that is leading you towards away from the life that you want, that's going to be self-sabotage. And you need to analyze what you're doing, your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and see. And that's why we're conscious individuals. We are one of the only animals that can do this, is to take a third row and view what we're doing in the moment. Saying like, hey, I'm about to be smoking some marijuana. Is that going to lead me towards where I want in life? Am I going to be able to create my business? Am I going to be able to work on my business today if I smoke this marijuana? Am I going to be able to, work on my business or get the house cleaned if I'm watching TV all day? If I'm going to be able to save some money, if I'm going to go out to the bars and drink all night, if I'm going to be able to wake up tomorrow and feel good and go to work, if I've been out drinking or staying up late playing video games. These things are all very, very important to think about, and you can use your conscious mind to address them. So the 8 reasons why we went over today of why we self-sabotage. 1, we are scared of change. We have those instincts instilled into us. 2, we are afraid of failure. 3, we want instant gratification. We're thinking short term, right? Number 4, we are misinformed and we struggle to know what it is we actually need. This one is so important. You got to know what you need, what you want in life to be able to make those changes. You got to know, hey, this thing's not good for me. I shouldn't be doing this. You can't just trust the authority figures. You can't just trust the mainstream, because that's been proven multiple times that that's not the right thing. That's not the safest thing to do. Number 5, everyone else is doing it. Peer pressure. Remember, what everyone else is doing is not always the safest thing. It's not always the best option, especially in today's society when the majority of people are obese, depressed, poor, and just addicted and unhappy with their lives. We've seen it before. You got to change what is familiar to you. You got to change what you're seeing every day. So that way, what you see and what you hear is something different, is something better. And then you can start reprogramming yourself so that you will be drawn. You can start creating new neural pathways. So the path of least resistance instead is going to those other things. to like eating healthy, to working out, those sorts of things. You got to start addressing your limiting beliefs and acknowledging them and identifying them. The one of the very important part of addressing your limiting beliefs is you just identifying them. Where do those limiting beliefs come from? Where did you learn them from? What are your limiting beliefs in your life? And last one is you got to take control of your life. And remember that being in control means that you're going to be taking these actions and changing your life, even if it is scary, even if you might fail, even if you're not going to be getting the instant gratification. You have to think long term. That is the true control. That is the true way to change your life and make it into what you want in your life. So I hope you guys learned some more information. And it's so important that we think about these things, that we address our self-sabotage. And I want you to know that if this seems all overwhelming to you, that if you want more information on this, you can always find some more, either on my Facebook page. I make posts every day. Listen to my other podcasts. I talk about many things about self-sabotage, or even you can come and schedule a free strategy call with me and we can talk about this. That is what I am trained to do. I'm trained to teach other people how their subconscious mind works, how they can, how it's influenced by the surrounding world around us, and how we can use our subconscious minds to overcome self-sabotage, how we can use our subconscious minds and how we can use our conscious minds to create the life that we've always been wanting to live. How we can start eating healthier, how we can get over our negative thinking, how we can start moving, away from alcohol and quit alcohol like I have been able to do. There's many ways you can do these things, and it's possible you can be able to do it on your own. I might have gotten to where I was today if I didn't reach out to someone. It's possible, but I would have struggled the whole way through, and I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. Not nearly as far as I am. Maybe farther down my life I would get here, but I've completely advanced my progress because I reached out to someone who was trained in understanding the subconscious mind and how to overcome self-sabotage. And that's what I want to be able to provide for you guys. That's why I make these podcasts, because it's so important that you don't get stuck, that you don't feel like there's something wrong with you, that that there's a way forward and that you can, take those actions forward. So, if you need that help, reach out. Please reach out. There's so many people that are able to help you. If you don't vibe with me, if you'd rather, work with someone else, then reach out to someone else who knows about self-sabotage. I have someone on my podcast every Sunday come out and share their self-sabotage story. And, all these people are trained self-sabotage coaches. And so you can actually reach out to one of them and they can help you overcome self-sabotage if you think you might be a better fit with them. But let me tell you what, everyone self-sabotages. So it's not something to be ashamed of, but it is something you need to address. It is something that if you want to be able to move forward in life, if you want to be happy, if you want to be able to create the life you've wanted, if you don't want to end up in a hospital bed when you're later on in your life, if you don't want to be sick and be scared of the world, if you want to be proud of yourself and be able to take the actions in your life that you want to be able to take, then you need to address self-sabotage. And a big part of it is just identifying why and understanding, how your subconscious mind works. So I hope you guys learned a little bit here today. Once again, my name is Tanner Dagenais. This is Self-Sabotage Solutions. And today we talked about 8 reasons why we self-sabotage. If you like this video or like this podcast, please subscribe. Please give it a like. Leave a comment if you want to. I'd love to hear from you guys. Reach out to me at my Facebook page or email me or go to one of my links. I'll have it all in the descriptions below. But yeah, any subscriptions to this page extremely helps because I want to get the word out for other people. I want other people to get this information and share this information. Please share it, and if you want me to talk about something, something that you're having problems with in your life, like me to make a video about it or a podcast about it, reach out to me. I'd love to personalize a video specifically around your problem, that would be a fantastic way to do it. So then I can help you in that way. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening.